Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Build, and this episode we're doing something a little different, a little special, and we're going to build a haunted Halloween mansion. That's right, and you see me here with World Painter, that tool that I showed you before, and what I'm doing is I'm crafting an island out in the middle of the sea. Now it took me ages to get this right, because what I wanted was a steep cliff on one side of the mountain, so you see me here toying around with a few tools. I wanted a steep cliff on one side of the mountain, so I had to constantly refer back to the 3D view to make sure I had that steep cliff and that it reached up high enough. But on the other side of the island, I wanted basically just like kind of a stagger down. Like I wanted it to be like a smooth hill, basically like a cheese wedge in the middle of the ocean, but with a flat top and a cliff that bordered the sea. But I didn't want it to be a smooth wedge, I wanted there to be flat layers, flat levels on the island. And so you can see here there's multiple levels, but it slowly staggers down to the coast on the left. And on the right, down there in the bottom right corner, we have a flat section where we're going to be putting our haunted mansion that's going to reach out over the cliff face. So once I had the rough shape of the island in position, I made the bottom levels of the island into stone and gravel, because I wanted a gravel texture for my beaches rather than have sand, which is a bit too beach-like. I wanted gravel to make it a bit more spooky and a bit more haunted. So with the gravel in place, I evened off some more of the mountain, some more of the hillside, and some more of the island to give us some more areas to put down some flat trees and forest locations, because a spooky mansion has to be surrounded by eerie-looking trees and forests. But also I didn't want the island to look too regular, so those kind of levels of flat land on the mountainside, on the hillside, should make it look a bit more natural. Now once the island itself was pretty much complete, I had to come around this side and add some jagged cliff kind of rock bits, because I wanted this to be like kind of like a choppy sea kind of haunted mansion on the top of a cliff surrounded by these jaggedy kind of upside down stalactites, these stone spikes reaching up from the sea that just make it look a bit more dangerous and a bit more kind of, you know, spooky and haunted. So once those stone spikes were done, I'd use the mountain tool to make those. Once those stone spikes reaching out of the sea were complete and the forests were in, you can see what the finished island looks like. Oh yeah, those stone spikes reaching out of the ocean. Whoa. It's very evil, very nefarious. And as we climb up the side of the cliff, you can see there the stone sides of the cliffs. Now you see that water reaching down. We'll have to come round with an air tool and delete some of those waterfalls that have sprouted out of the rock face. But as day dawns and the sun approaches, you can see it's like kind of like a steep hillside with forests dotted around for the moment. We'll be adding some big trees of our own and decorating this forest a bit more with some leaning out rocks, some jutted out rocks, and of course some roads, because even a spooky island needs a road to get to the mansion. But for the most part, the geography of the island is pretty much complete. That's all we want to do in World Painter. Just give us a rough kind of sandboxy location to build our spooky mansion on. And then there on top you see the flat land, the flat location, that kind of sausage strip where we're going to be putting our haunted mansion. Oh yeah. Now we've got just enough space, I think, to put a haunted mansion, a large haunted house, and a graveyard with some iron gates around the edge, some broken iron gates, and a spooky road that leads down through the forest to the coast. Oh yeah, I just can't wait to get into the building. So, now that the geography's done, it's time to put down some blocks. And you can see I've changed shaders to make it a bit more easy to see what I'm doing. Now first up, I've got out different coloured wool blocks to map out the foundations for the build. Now the red squares, the red wool, were going to be large tower sections for the mansion, and the black here is just the connecting kind of building between those. Now I had to make sure that the tower sections were exactly the same size, and that the thickness between the black kind of bordering sections was the same. And once I had the rough area for the towers and the building mapped out, I added these kind of yellow and blue step sections so that I could see where I was going to put the steps to get into the main entrance of the mansion. That's going to be the front door right there in the corner. but also I made the sides a bit jaggeder with extra black wool, which is what we're going to use for decoration. Now I used copy and paste to move that tower because it was slightly irregular, and then I started to replace all of the wool with cobblestone steps. Now again, the key to making this mansion look good and haunted and spooky is going to be detail and layering, which basically means I'm going to have it quite thick. The walls are going to be quite thick, and we're going to dig into them with all the detail that we want. But the theme in general, I think, for this haunted mansion has to be dark. So we're going to use dark wood, dark logs, and cobblestone to make the walls, the support structure, and the roofing. So once the foundations were in place, I gave it an extra layer of cobblestone on the inside, and at the corner, I started to put down some dark wooden logs. And then I built up with those to build the framework for our haunted mansion. Then I put some loose stairing in there, as you can see, but that's something we'll probably come back to and change a bit. And now with most of the wooden logs in place for the structure, I began to put down some dark stone brick. This is textured cracked stone brick, and built up the walls. Now again, this took me some time, and what I might do is change from dark stone brick you see here to mossy stone brick, which is a bit more nefarious and it looks a bit more abandoned and possibly a bit more spooky. But again, all I was doing here was just building up with the wall sections that I knew I would be adding to. And then 4 blocks high, adding a layer of parallel, of kind of horizontal wooden logs to make sure we know where the first floor begins. And then building up even further with the dark stone brick. Now, reaching out from this building section here on the left, I wanted a large kind of clock tower part of the mansion. This is going to reach out above anything in the mansion. This is going to be the tallest point in the building. But for the moment, I'm just using some logs to get us a placeholder tower there. And then continuing to build around the edge with the dark stone brick. Now adding again another horizontal layer, another horizontal level of wooden logs to map out our second floor. And then building up even further with some more dark stone brick. But for the tower sections, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to reach out by 1 block on all the ledges so it kind of expands out as you go up. So I added some wooden logs around the outside to help with this. Used upside down wooden steps to make the stagger seem a bit more natural. And then repeated the same idea on the other tower here on the left. Now you can see how this reaches up, but it's 1 block wider than the previous layer. And this should help mark the towers out from the main building. Now again, building up the walls, counting out blocks with using this red wool just as guidelines. And then again, I built around most of the rest of the building with an extra layer of dark stone brick. Now some of the building will lean out as well as the towers with dark stone brick, but some of it will remain the same. Now once I had the rough structure for the building mapped out completely, it was time to put in some dark stone brick for the roof. Now this isn't the actual roof, this is going to be the layer underneath the roof. And what we'll do is either we'll replace this dark stone brick with dark wood, or we'll go over it. We'll have 1 layer above the brick as dark wood. But as you can see, this is not conventional roofing. This is much, much steeper, because I think you need a really steep roof to get that proper haunted house feel. Now using that red wool to copy and paste the tower roof over to the other tower, because it was exactly the same shape and size, so why not? And then it was time to fill in the gaps between those 2 towers with even more sharp, steep, peaked roofing. Now getting the peaked roofing to match up with the connecting buildings proved a little bit troublesome, and some of it was slightly irregularly levelled, but it should all come together when I put the dark wood on top of it to make it lean out over the edges of the building, over the walls, and reach even higher up into the sky. Now, with the connecting darkstone brick roofs in place, it was time to come around to the tallest part of the mansion, the tower, and start to build that up. Now again, I reached up even higher with the dark logs you see here, and then began to build darkstone brick inside those wooden logs. That's right, they're one layer shallower than the actual square created by the dark logs. But it is an actual square. And then again, I come out one level up here to make it look a bit more clock towery. But also I would be building the peaked roof up here as well. Now the way I did this was a bit complicated and it's difficult to describe, but what I basically did was created a sharp, steep, peaked kind of pyramid, a four-sided pyramid, but then reached out on each of the four sides to give it a bit more of an expanded, extended roof look. And so here we are. Structurally, the whole place is pretty much complete. Now there's a lot to do still. We've got to add decoration, roofing, windows, even more decoration, and of course a spooky graveyard, perhaps a haunted carriage, a pumpkin carriage. Basically at the moment all we have is a mansion. What we really need to do is add the haunted, we need to add the spooky. So stick with this, and next episode we'll be coming back to the haunted mansion and we'll be getting it looking a bit more spooky. So I've been Sjin, and this has been a special Let's Build where we've been creating a haunted, spooky mansion. Hit like and favourite and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for some more spooky action. Take care.